Microsoft just had a massive security crisis that they tried to bury, and what leaked out is absolutely terrifying. Windows 11 telemetry data, the information Microsoft collects about everything you do, was exposed to hackers. Not through some sophisticated cyber attack, not through some zero-day exploit, but through Microsoft's own infrastructure. The data they promised was encrypted and secure was sitting there accessible to anyone who knew where to look. And when security researchers found it, when they reported it to Microsoft, the company's response wasn't to immediately fix it. It was to panic, to downplay, and to hope nobody noticed. But people noticed. And what they found is forcing us to ask a fundamental question. Can we trust Microsoft with our data at all? If this concerns you, if you want to know what's really happening with your computer, hit subscribe right now because this story gets worse the deeper we go. The leak happened in February 2025, but the vulnerability existed for at least 8 months before anyone outside Microsoft knew about it. Ian Coldwater, a security researcher based in Seattle, was analyzing Windows 11 network traffic for a client project. Standard security audit, nothing unusual. He's using Wireshark to monitor packets, watching what data Windows sends to Microsoft servers. He expects to see encrypted telemetry, standard diagnostic data, nothing readable. What he sees instead makes him stop everything. The telemetry data is being transmitted with broken encryption, not fully unencrypted, but with a flaw so obvious that anyone with basic decryption tools can read it. He's seeing usernames, device IDs, application usage data, file names, search queries, all in plain text or trivially encrypted. He runs the test again, thinking it's a mistake. Same result. He checks another Windows 11 machine. Same vulnerability. He's looking at a security flaw affecting hundreds of millions of computers worldwide. This isn't a theoretical vulnerability. This is active, exploitable, happening right now on every Windows 11 machine with default settings. Ian does what responsible researchers do. He contacts Microsoft's Security Response Center, files a detailed report, includes packet captures showing the vulnerability, and explains the severity. He expects a fast response. This is critical. Microsoft's response time? 11 days for an initial acknowledgement. Not a fix, just an email saying they received the report and are investigating. 11 days where the vulnerability is active, where hackers who discover it independently can exploit it, where millions of users are exposed. He waits 3 weeks. No update from Microsoft. He reaches out again. Microsoft tells him they're working on a patch, but they can't provide a timeline. Standard corporate speak. No urgency. He's watching the news expecting to see Microsoft issue an emergency security bulletin. Nothing. Silence. Meanwhile, he's on security forums under a pseudonym asking if anyone else noticed unusual Windows telemetry behavior. Within 48 hours, 3 other researchers confirm they've seen similar issues. They're comparing notes privately. The vulnerability isn't limited to one telemetry stream. It affects multiple data collection services built into Windows 11. Windows Defender telemetry, Windows Update telemetry, Microsoft Edge browsing data, Cortana voice data, even some OneDrive sync metadata. Everything Microsoft collects about you, exposed because of sloppy encryption implementation. One researcher, going by the handle nullpointer, traced the problem to a library Microsoft updated in June 2024. The update was supposed to improve telemetry performance, reduce bandwidth usage. It did that by weakening encryption. Someone at Microsoft decided performance was more important than security. They shipped it, nobody caught it. Or if they did, nobody cared enough to stop it. By late March, Ian can't stay quiet anymore. The vulnerability has been known to Microsoft for over a month. No patch released, no public acknowledgement. He goes public with a detailed write-up, published on his security blog. He redacts enough technical details to prevent script kiddies from exploiting it immediately, but he makes the severity clear. Within 6 hours, his blog post is on Hacker News, front page. Within 12 hours, it's on Reddit, on Twitter, on every tech news site. Within 24 hours, Microsoft is in full crisis mode. Their PR team releases a statement, We are aware of a report regarding telemetry data handling in Windows 11. We take security extremely seriously and are investigating. We have found no evidence of active exploitation. We will provide updates as appropriate. Standard corporate damage control. Notice what they don't say. They don't deny the vulnerability exists. They don't commit to a fixed timeline. They don't apologize. They just say they're investigating something they've known about for over a month. The tech press starts digging. Journalists reach out to security experts. Dr. Sarah Chen, a cryptography professor at MIT, reviews Ian's findings. She tells The Verge the vulnerability is exactly as serious as described. Any attacker on the same network as a victim could intercept telemetry data. Coffee shop Wi-Fi, office networks, even compromised home routers. The attacker doesn't need to break into your computer. They just need to be on the same network and run packet capture software. She demonstrates it live for the journalist, sets up a Windows 11 VM, connects it to a test network, runs Wireshark, and within minutes, she's reading telemetry data. Usernames, app usage, search queries, all visible. She tells the journalist this is negligence. Microsoft collects enormous amounts of user data. They promise it's secure. It's not. And they've known it's not for at least a month without warning users. The story explodes. Every major tech publication runs it. The Guardian, BBC, Ars Technica, Wired, everyone. Microsoft's stock drops 3% in 2 days. Not catastrophic, but noticeable. Investors are nervous. Enterprise customers are furious. Rachel Morrison is now the IT director at a pharmaceutical company in New Jersey, managing 800 Windows endpoints. She reads about the vulnerability on a Tuesday morning. She immediately understands the implications. Her company handles FDA-regulated data, patient information, drug development research, all protected under strict confidentiality requirements. If Windows telemetry is leaking data about what applications are running, what files are being accessed, that's potentially exposing confidential information. Even if the file contents aren't leaked, the metadata is damaging. She spends Tuesday in emergency meetings with legal, with compliance, with her CIO. By Wednesday morning, they've made a decision. They're migrating off Windows for all systems handling sensitive data. 800 endpoints moving to Linux. Cost $2.4 million for licenses, training, migration support. They're eating that cost because staying on Windows is a compliance risk they can't accept. She calls her Microsoft account rep to explain the decision. The rep tries to downplay the issue, says a patch is coming soon, says there's no evidence of active exploitation. She cuts him off. She doesn't care if there's evidence of exploitation. The vulnerability exists. Microsoft knew about it and didn't warn customers. That's a breach of trust. Her company is a $40 million annual Microsoft customer. Office 365, Azure, Windows, the whole ecosystem, they're pulling out. Not immediately, not everything, but Windows is done. The rep escalates to his manager. The manager calls her directly, tries to offer concessions, extended support, priority patching. She's not interested. Her company can't trust Microsoft with their data anymore. This incident proved Microsoft prioritizes their own convenience over customer security. That pharmaceutical company is one customer, but they're not alone. On Reddit, in the sysadmin subreddit, IT professionals are posting their company's responses. A law firm in Toronto migrating to Mac, an engineering firm in Germany moving to Ubuntu, a hospital network in Texas evaluating alternatives. The thread is 800 comments long. Every few comments, another IT admin saying they're planning a migration away from Windows. These are enterprise customers, multi-year contracts, thousands of seats, millions in revenue. Microsoft is losing them because of this vulnerability and their response to it. Then it gets worse. By late March, security researchers find evidence the vulnerability was being exploited in the wild. Not widely, not by ransomware gangs, but by state-sponsored actors. A cybersecurity firm called Shadowbreak, based in Tel Aviv, publishes a report. They've been tracking an APT group, Advanced Persistent Threat, believed to be linked to a nation-state. They won't say which one publicly, but their report implies China or Russia. This APT group was seen exploiting the Windows telemetry vulnerability in targeted attacks against government contractors, defense industry companies, and research institutions. The attack started in January 2025. That's 6 weeks before Ian Coldwater discovered the vulnerability independently. 6 weeks before Microsoft was notified, which means either the APT group found it first or they had inside information. Shadowbreak's report includes network traffic captures, malware samples, indicators of compromise. The evidence is solid. The APT group was using the telemetry leak to identify high-value targets. They'd intercept telemetry data on compromised networks, analyze what applications were running, what files were being accessed, and use that information to decide which systems to attack next. It's reconnaissance. You don't need to break into every computer if you can read telemetry from all of them. You find the computers running CAD software, running classified document viewers, running specialized research tools. Those are your targets. Then you focus your efforts there. Microsoft's initial response was to deny this. A spokesperson told Reuters they had no evidence the vulnerability was exploited before it was publicly disclosed. Shadowbreak's CEO, Tal Gershon, went on Bloomberg TV and called that statement false. He said his company provided their findings to Microsoft 2 weeks before going public, gave Microsoft a chance to respond. Microsoft never acknowledged receipt. Tal sat on live TV and said Microsoft is lying to protect their reputation. He showed redacted excerpts of the email his company sent to Microsoft, showed the delivery confirmation. Microsoft received it. They ignored it. Now there's evidence of a cover-up, not just negligence in fixing the vulnerability, but active suppression of information about exploitation. The story is spiraling beyond Microsoft's control. Mainstream news picks it up. CNN runs a segment. Is your Windows computer leaking your data? ABC News interviews security experts who explain what telemetry is and why this leak matters. Millions of non-technical people are hearing about this. People who don't read tech blogs, who don't follow security researchers, who just use their computers for work and personal tasks. They're learning Microsoft has been collecting massive amounts of data about them, promised it was secure, and it wasn't. Trust is evaporating. On March 28th, 2 weeks after Ian's disclosure, Microsoft releases a patch. It's a Tuesday, Standard Patch Tuesday release. The patch is labeled KB50321990, described as a security update for Windows 11 telemetry services. The patch notes are vague, just saying it improves encryption handling for diagnostic data. No acknowledgement of the severity, no apology, no detailed explanation. Just a quiet patch buried in the monthly update cycle. Security researchers immediately test it. The patch does fix the primary vulnerability, but not completely. Certain telemetry streams are still using weak encryption. Not as bad as before, but not properly secured either. Ian Coldwater publishes a follow-up. The patch is incomplete. Microsoft is still not taking this seriously. Another researcher, going by the name H4CKK3RQQ33N, finds something worse. The patch introduces a new problem. It's logging telemetry errors to a local file in plain text. If the telemetry service fails to connect to Microsoft servers, it writes error logs containing some of the data it was trying to send. Those logs are stored in C, Windows.temp, a folder that many applications can access. So even though the network transmission is more secure now, the data is being written to disk unencrypted where malware can read it. This is amateur hour stuff. Microsoft patched one vulnerability and created another. The backlash intensifies. The EFF, the Electronic Frontier Foundation, publishes an article calling for regulatory action. They argue Microsoft's telemetry practices are invasive, their security is negligent, and users have no real ability to opt out without breaking functionality. They call for FTC investigation, for GDPR enforcement in Europe, for legal consequences. A class action lawsuit is filed in California. The plaintiff is a small business owner claiming the telemetry leak exposed confidential customer information, violated privacy laws, and caused financial harm. The lawsuit seeks damages and demands Microsoft allow full disabling of telemetry without functional loss. It's early, it might not succeed, but it shows the legal pressure building. In Europe, GDPR regulators start asking questions. Ireland's Data Protection Commission, which oversees Microsoft's European operations, announces an inquiry. They want to know if Microsoft's telemetry practices comply with GDPR, if users were properly informed about data collection, if the security breach was reported in the required 72-hour window. Spoiler, it wasn't. Microsoft had weeks to report the breach to regulators and didn't. That's a GDPR violation. Fines can reach 4% of global revenue. For Microsoft, that's potentially $8 billion. The inquiry will take months, but the threat is real. Then internal leaks start. Someone inside Microsoft, anonymously, starts sharing information with journalists. The leaker goes by the name Bluescreen and contacts multiple reporters through encrypted channels. Bluescreen claims to be a senior engineer who worked on Windows telemetry systems. They provide internal documents, meeting notes, email threads. The documents show Microsoft knew the telemetry encryption was weak. It wasn't an accident. It was a deliberate decision. In June 2024, when the flawed library update was being reviewed, engineers raised concerns. They said the encryption changes would reduce security. They recommended against deploying it. Management overruled them. Why? Performance metrics. The telemetry system was using too much bandwidth, causing slowdowns on some networks. Customer complaints were coming in. Management wanted it fixed fast. Engineering proposed optimizing without weakening security, but that would take longer. Management didn't want to wait. They pushed the weak encryption update, and engineering complied under pressure. Bluescreen includes an email from a director-level manager saying, "We need to ship this by end of quarter. Security review can happen in the next update cycle." Security was deprioritized for a shipping deadline. Another leaked document shows Microsoft's internal response when Ian Coldwater reported the vulnerability. The initial triage team marked it as moderate severity, not critical. They assigned it a 90-day fixed timeline, 90 days, for a vulnerability exposing user data on hundreds of millions of computers. Why the low priority? Because Microsoft's internal severity ratings prioritize vulnerabilities that allow remote code execution or privilege escalation. Data leakage, even widespread data leakage, is considered less urgent. It's a broken priority system. They care more about hackers taking control of computers than hackers stealing data from computers. Both are critical, but only one gets the urgent response. Bluescreen's leaks are damaging. They show negligence, poor decision-making, and a culture that doesn't prioritize user privacy. Microsoft's PR team goes into overdrive trying to find the leaker, but the damage is done. The documents are out, verified by multiple journalists, published in the New York Times and the Washington Post. Microsoft's internal dysfunction is now public knowledge. Kevin Torres, the gamer from Brazil, is now a cybersecurity analyst in Boston. He sees the telemetry leak story and decides to dig deeper. He sets up a test environment, a fresh Windows 11 install, completely default settings, and monitors everything, not just network traffic, but file system activity, registry changes, background processes. He wants to see exactly what telemetry is doing. What he finds is worse than the leak itself. Windows 11 telemetry is collecting far more data than Microsoft publicly admits. The official documentation says telemetry includes device info, app usage, and error reports. Kevin's monitoring shows it's also collecting typing patterns, how long you spend in each application, what time of day you use your computer, what peripherals are connected, even screenshots in certain error conditions. That's not in the documentation. That's not what users consented to. It's undisclosed data collection. He publishes his findings on GitHub with full packet captures, process dumps, everything needed to reproduce. Within 24 hours, other researchers confirm his results. Windows 11 telemetry is spyware. Not figuratively, literally. It meets the definition: software that collects user information without clear disclosure or consent. The European Commission takes notice. Margrethe Vestager, the EU's competition commissioner known for going after big tech, makes a statement. She says Microsoft's telemetry practices appear to violate GDPR's transparency and consent requirements. She announces a formal investigation. This is separate from Ireland's inquiry. This is the Commission itself getting involved. If they rule against Microsoft, the consequences are severe. Fines, forced changes to Windows, possibly even sales bans until compliance is achieved. Microsoft's Brussels office goes into crisis mode. They start lobbying. They start preparing legal defenses. They start trying to negotiate. But the evidence is overwhelming. The telemetry leak, the undisclosed data collection, the poor security, it all adds up to a pattern of disregard for user privacy. In the US, Senator Ron Wyden, known for privacy advocacy, calls for hearings. He sends a letter to Microsoft's CEO, Satya Nadella, with 30 questions about telemetry practices, data security, and the recent breach. He gives Microsoft 2 weeks to respond. The letter is public. It's detailed. It asks for specifics. How much data is collected? Where is it stored? Who has access? How long is it retained? What security measures are in place? Why weren't users notified immediately when the breach was discovered? Microsoft's response is due April 15th. Wyden makes it clear if the response is inadequate, hearings will follow. Meanwhile, users are taking action. Not just IT professionals, regular people. Online guides start appearing. How to disable Windows 11 telemetry completely. These guides involve registry edits, group policy changes, firewall rules, even hosts file modifications to block Microsoft's telemetry servers. It's technical, beyond what most users can do, but the guides spread anyway. Millions of views. People are so desperate to stop the spying, they're willing to risk breaking their systems. Some guides work, some don't. Some introduce instability. Microsoft responds by making it harder. In late April, they release another update, KB5034.129, which re-enables telemetry, even if users disabled it. The update resets registry keys, resets group policies, adds new telemetry services that the old blocking methods don't catch. It's an arms race. Users try to disable spying. Microsoft forces it back on. Users find new methods. Microsoft blocks those. It's adversarial. The company and its customers are fighting each other. That's not a sustainable relationship. That's a relationship in collapse. Let's get real about what this means for you. If you're on Windows 11 right now, your data is being collected constantly. After the patch, it's more secure in transit, but it's still being collected. Microsoft still has it, and we've seen they can't be trusted to secure it. So what do you do? Option 1. Stay on Windows, accept the surveillance, hope Microsoft doesn't screw up again. That's what most people will do, because switching is hard. Option 2. Lock down your system. Use the guides to disable telemetry, block Microsoft servers, turn off every data collection feature you can find. This works but requires technical knowledge and breaks some features. Updates might re-enable things. You'll be fighting the OS constantly. Option 3. Switch to Linux. Scary if you've never done it, but modern Linux distributions like Ubuntu, Linux Mint, Pop! OS, they're user-friendly. Most software has alternatives. Gaming works through Proton. It's viable for most users now. Option 4. Switch to Mac. Expensive up front, but the OS respects your privacy more than Windows. No telemetry by default, no forced accounts, no ads in the OS. It just works. Option 5. Use Windows in a VM on Linux. You get Windows when you need it for specific applications, but your main OS is private. This is for advanced users, but gives you the best of both worlds. There's no perfect solution. Every OS has trade-offs. But the question you need to ask is, do you trust Microsoft? After the telemetry leak, after learning they chose performance over security, after seeing they collect way more data than they admit, can you trust them? For millions of users, the answer is no, and they're leaving. If you want to see where this goes, If you want to keep up with Microsoft's slow motion collapse, subscribe, because this story is far from over. We're watching a computing giant fall in real time. Windows dominated for 30 years. That dominance is ending, not because a better product came along, but because Microsoft destroyed user trust one bad decision at a time. The telemetry leak was just the most visible disaster in a long series of disasters. And Microsoft's response, their stonewalling, their incomplete patches, their continued data collection, it proves they haven't learned. They're still prioritizing their business model over your privacy. They're still treating you like a data source instead of a customer. That's why users are leaving. That's why enterprises are migrating. That's why developers are moving to other platforms. Here's the thing, nobody at Microsoft wants to admit. They can't fix this with a patch. This isn't a technical problem, it's a trust problem. And trust, once broken, takes years to rebuild. Microsoft would need to fundamentally change how Windows works. Make telemetry fully optional with no functional loss. Remove all ads from the OS. Allow local accounts without restrictions. Stop forcing updates. Give users control of their own computers. They won't do that because it conflicts with their business model. They need the data. They need the lock-in. They need the forced ecosystem integration. So they'll keep making small concessions, releasing minor fixes, issuing statements about commitment to privacy, and users will keep leaving. Because the core problem isn't getting fixed. Windows isn't an OS designed for users anymore. It's an OS designed to monetize users. The telemetry leak just made that obvious. And once you see it, once you understand what Windows has become, you can't go back to accepting it. That's the crisis Microsoft is facing. Not a security crisis, though that's bad enough. A legitimacy crisis. Users are questioning whether Windows deserves to exist in its current form. And increasingly, they're deciding it doesn't. They're voting with their migrations, with their wallet, with their choice of OS for their next computer. If Microsoft doesn't change course dramatically, Windows will be a niche OS by 2030. Still used in some enterprises because of legacy software, but no longer the default for new users, new developers, new businesses. That's the future.